Hello everyone, welcome to Full Moon Movies. Tucked in the raw of metal and the secret of smoke lies a man unwounded by grief and ambition. Michael Mann's Ferrari isn't your typical racetrack drama. It's a portrait of obsession, loss, and how legacy demands both sacrifice and betrayal. Adam Driver plays Enzo Ferrari in 1957, a man whose world is splintering. His auto empire is near collapse. He's grieving his beloved son Dino, and he juggles a tenuous marriage with wife Laura, played by Penelope Cruz, alongside a hidden life with his mistress Lena Lardy by Shalini Woodley, and another son. From the first scene, Enzo's ambition pulses. He's convinced that Mille Miglia, Italy's dangerous 1,000-mile road race, will save his company. But as we go into character arcs, Ferrari is no hero. He's a martyr to control. His relationship with Laura is both strategic and emotionally tender. She demands his power and his presence, and when she insists he live up to appearances or loses everything, he makes brutal bargains. Cruz's performance captures a grief that's both dignified and desperate, resisting pity as much as betrayal. Meanwhile, Driver's Ferrari stays enigmatic. He's charismatic, abrupt, intense, yet beneath the surface, menacing. The script by Troy Kennedy Martin peels back layers after layer. His discipline, his demand for absolute perfection, his unwillingness to pause for personal pain. Ferrari becomes a man haunted not by failings, but by the cause of winning. Key scenes drive this arc include Enzo's confrontation with Lena's demand for their son to carry Ferrari name, the tension as Ferrari signs marital power of attorney in exchange for control over his company. Then comes the Mille Miglia, the race shot as an apocalyptic ballad. Drivers and spectators crush together in an instant of tragedy. Alfonso Di Pordago's fatal crash, which kills both him and 9 bystanders, becomes an emotionally tipping point not just for Ferrari company but for his soul. Cinematographer Eric Messerschmidt distinguishes every scene visually. Mann asks for a Renaissance portrait feel for intimacy and adrenaline documentary for racing sequences. The domestic scene feels chiaroscuro-wrapped and status quo, reminiscent of Caravaggio's or Rembrandt. The racing scenes, in contrast, are kinetic, shot with multiple high-speed cameras mounted on cars, visceral, precise, and thrilling. Composer Daniel Pemberton's score is equally deliberate. He scored the entire film in 1 week and knew the engines were the real score, so his music leaves room for metal to scream with lower frequencies stroke emotional undercurrents. The score pulses signs and visually dissolve in silence as tragedy strikes. Critically, opinions diverge. Some hailed Mann's visual precision and Driver's steely performance, while others question the emotional distance. Ferrari can feel remote, beautiful, but inert. Entertainment Weekly called it a weak entry, noting the accent inconsistencies and lack of emotional impact outside the race sequences. But Variety and Rolling Stones praised Cruz and Mann's mastery of visual storytelling, calling the film overwhelming and operatic in ambition. At the box office, Ferrari carried modest weight around 43.6 million worldwide on a 95 million budget, underperforming expectation but still earning some acclaim within the art house audience. But now let's look a bit more deeper about the critics about why this movie still underperformed. While Ferrari delivers a slow-burning, introspective portrait of a man burdened by loss of legacy, it ultimately couldn't capture audiences' attention the way Ford vs. Ferrari did, because the two films operate on fundamentally different storytelling engines. Now, Ford vs. Ferrari is structured like a crowd-pleasing sports drama. It's character-driven, emotionally accessible, and has a clear protagonist to root for. For example, Carroll Shelby and Ken Miles, men who challenged a powerful institution, face personal hurdles and win over audiences through charisma, grit, and teamwork. Its script balances humor, tension, and emotional stakes, making it entertaining even for those unfamiliar with racing. But in contrast, Ferrari is a quiet, melancholic film that assumes viewers already know the stakes and history. It's more about internal collapse than external triumph. There's no central rivalry to anchor the narrative, no climactic emotional payoff, and no sense of rising momentum that guides most mainstream biopics. The emotional distance Mann deliberately builds into the film, while intellectually admirable, It creates a disconnect for general audiences. Enzo Ferrari, as portrayed by Adam Driver, is stoic, reserved, and rarely lets the audience in. Ferrari feels more like an European art house film about grief and control, while Ford vs. Ferrari is pure Hollywood storytelling that invites the viewers to ride shotgun. The former demands a patience and close attention to subtle character dynamics. The latter grabs you by the seatbelt from the start and delivers catharsis by the finish line. Ultimately, Ferrari didn't underperform because of a lack of quality, but because its narrative tone, pacing, and protagonist didn't create the universal emotional connection that Ford vs. Ferrari mastered so well. In conclusion, Ferrari is not a crowd pleaser, but it's a director film. It asks you to sit with a man who refuses to slow down even as everything he loves threatens to leave him behind. It's about the cost of vision, the isolation and greatness, and the mechanical way grief finds its path through legacy. Flawed, perhaps, distant, certainly, but memorable. Now, this movie, both in sound and picture, lets Mann's portrait of a broken man pursuing immortality feel as cold, precise, and tragic as the real thing. Now, this movie is a must watch.